So it does not look like anyone had any particular agenda items or anything, so we can probably just meet quickly and take whatever you all had. So this is a meeting under a sig testing project under the CNCF. So this follows the Kubernetes Community Code of Conduct, which is, I believe, the CNCF Code of Conduct. Basically, don't be jerks, and this will be publicly recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Did either of you had anything you wanted to talk about?
I'm just coming along today, just say hi, I guess. I'm still going to be working on that docs thing, just reiterating on that. Yeah. Hi.
Thanks for the PR. Yeah, I think currently there's enough things in the air and there's like enough discussion through other channels that this meeting has kind of become a bit of a moot point, even though it's only bi-weekly. We'll see going forward. It also got interrupted by things like KubeCon, and yeah. Yeah, so looking at the agenda, the last agenda is set up for like May 6th. And all of those things are being worked on. I didn't have one thing I was going to discuss, but given that it's just the three of us, I think I will make sure to discuss it by some other means anyhow. Do you have any questions or anything?
I don't have anything in particular. I just kind of wanted to swing by. Kind of lost track and got caught up with some other things. Finally got some time back, and I was just wanted to catch up, see what everyone's working on.
Cool. Well, so we've got a bunch of work towards IPv6, other small patches. I've been spending time on trying to make things fast again. Kubernetes 1.15 is about to come out, and it's not as reliable boot speed-wise in kind. I think I know how to fix that. And then I think we're just planning like which things to juggle going forward. There's a lot of stuff that people want. I'm hopefully going to ramp up one of my Google teammates who's been doing a bunch of code review into sending actual code next quarter and pay down a bunch of technical debt, like not really having unit tests. But right now there's like, I don't know, 20 something open PRs to go through. That's kind of stacked up. Some of them just need to be closed, but yeah, there's like infinite things to work on. After KubeCon, this got quite a bit more popular, a lot more attention, so a lot more feature requests and whatnot.
So if anything, I guess issue triage, reviewing PRs, will that be a good way of helping you get some load off?
I think the biggest thing that's been super helpful for everyone is actually the kind channel. Finding stuff there, because that one has actually way more of the like questions and stuff. A lot of people that are looking for help go there. I need to figure out how to go back through and like politely close out some of these. Like we've got one open for a couple days now. I guess I'll just leave it. But if someone's asking about deploying some specific thing onto it, it's like this doesn't appear to be like something related to kind. I don't know. And similarly, we've got another thing where we have a lot of PRs that are like they're kind of the right idea, but they're not really merge ready, and like people are just not following up. So eventually, we're gonna have to let them age out and then just open more or less the same idea, but fixed up.
Also, since I got you here, agenda is light. So kind, it's awesome, but at least I'm not in here to try to add more features. If anything, the thing that I was wondering is how would you find new contributors. What would you say is a good way for new contributors to help you out and don't be super busy with all things?
I don't know. All the feedback is super useful. The documentation work has been super useful. Like helping review PRs is always welcome, but like thankfully, like the volume's not too bad. That most of them have been kind of reviewed. It's the figuring out how to like get them to a state where they're actually going to merge, like that back and forth. A big thing that happens is just that people, there's like an inkling of what should happen, and someone goes and files a PR, and then there wasn't any discussion about like actually how it's being done, and then that winds up happening on the PR, which is really slow. I'm not really sure that anybody can fix that. Also, just like smaller fixes, like not sending. I keep having to do this to make big changes to fix stuff, but like, really small PRs are much easier to work out and merge. So if there's just like some little thing that seems off, fix. But right now, I think most of these, the code throughput isn't a big problem. It's design, like figuring out how should we make these things better. Like people want to be able to access like node ports and stuff when they're on Docker for Mac. There's like a whole bunch of ways that we could hack something up in an afternoon that would work, but figuring out something that's actually going to be good long term is just going to take more like testing stuff and exploring the options. That's way more time consuming than the code or the PR reviews, or also or like similarly, it's not very hard to write some half decent entry on the site for like documentation, but the tricky part is going to be organizing it and figuring out what stuff should be added to it. The low-hanging fruit keeps getting grabbed. It's been hard. I've been trying to file like issues that are like good first issues, but like most of the currently available easy stuff has been tackled, and a lot of the other stuff needs like bigger changes first. Like the unit testing, for example, it would be really hard to go add any right now because things need to be mocked out more, and like writing the mock interface for these things is a lot more like opinionated in design than just like solving the code problem. It's also not that much code currently, so I've been able to pretty much stay on top of that. I don't know, figuring out that would be a great one. Figuring out what would be useful for other contributors to do. That's like one of the hardest things. Or there are a few issues that haven't been tackled just because they need the right expertise. Like apparently a while back we accepted a PR to add ZSH completion support along with bash completion, and the ZSH completion doesn't actually work. Someone familiar with ZSH and completion to figure out like what maybe we can do about that. I think it's a upstream problem, but like we might have to do a workaround. I don't know. That's a tough problem. I get asked that one a lot. It's like for a lot of other projects, I've had a much easier time filing like here's some good first issues. Like if you look over in test info, we have a bunch of them usually, but for kind, every time I file a batch, they're like immediately taken by someone who's actually kind of an existing contributor usually. So it's really hard to bring on new people because those like good first issues don't stick around. They're usually closed in like under 24 hours, which doesn't give people time to find them. We only have like 2 or 3 right now. Yeah. I really don't know for that one. I was actually discussing this last week with one of the other existing contributors, and we didn't come up with anything. I think there will be a lot more in the future because the other thing is when the code's more stable and whatnot, it's kind of easier to go add some small things to it or clean it up. But when we're doing things like, well, we're just going to completely replace the networking to make IPv6 work, it's kind of hard to contribute to that because the next thing that's going to happen is some several thousand line PR that just like replaces everything. That should go away over time.
Mhm. Yeah.
but it's not quite there.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think probably the easiest one right now is the documentation could use a lot more work, and that's really easy to jump into. I think we need to start breaking out some more details that would be useful for people to know, that like we don't want to make the quick start guide, 20 pages.
Mhm.
Like a best practices guide would be a good one, with like you should pin your images so they don't change out from underneath you, that sort of thing. Even just a lot of things, just the activation of energy of like getting a page like that started is really useful too. Figuring out like what would be a good category to have another page.
Well, there's also the whole known issues page, and then known issues kind of stems into best practices and like just seeing how that maps out. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably more known issues that are not on this page. Um,
Mm.
that's hard to keep up with. Again, a lot of the discussion is actually happening in the Slack, and then it doesn't tend to get like really captured.
Mhm.
Mm.
To be better about that. I've
So,
personally been juggling too many things, but so the biggest thing I'm doing is just removing some of the other things, um, and so I can focus more. Because that happens. We answer questions or something, and then it's real quick, and then we forget about it, and then it has been relying on people that like saw those questions answered and then answer them again. More of these things should probably make it into a doc. I mean, it's still going to have to go both ways. People are still going to wind up referencing it, but having it written down somewhere that's not like searching through Slack is also like that's a big thing we should do.
mm, totally agree, because it's like you don't want to end up like, I'm gonna go check the wiki, open Slack. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But it's like I maybe like during the week you guys there needs to be some sort of capturing the hot takes on kind sort of thing, like this should be in a doc, like, and then we come into like the meeting every 2 weeks or something, and they're like, these were the best hot takes, did we get them in, sort of thing. Yeah.
The other thing that's going to happen is that we're going to probably want to our game on this in general, because this is going to start to become standard for all the projects. We
Mm.
actually laid the groundwork for uh, like all Kubernetes subprojects to be able to get sites like this. So everyone's going to have one soon, and I'd love to kind of stay at the forefront of having one of the better ones, because I do think that working on this shows that like you know we actually care about having users and whatnot, whereas like a lot of our projects don't have any docs yet at all. You can kind of see the prioritization there, and this one has definitely fallen behind a bit on priorities.
Mm.
Also, since we're talking about docs, I've been wondering this for a while. What would you think about having a reference somewhere in the actual document, somewhere in the actual docs to tutorials or talks that people have given about kind?
Yeah, that would be a really good page to add. Would be like a resources page,
Mhm.
and like embed like the talks and slides and stuff.
Okay.
That's another one of those things. Like I thought about it, I forgot about it. It hasn't happened. Just in general, adding categories like that would be, and like making them separate pages would be really useful. Like we have one right now on private registries, because that was one that people had questions a lot about. It actually needs a little updating. Even that granular, like if you can pull together, if you think we're going to be able to pull together a page of content on it, it should be a page.
Mm. Okay.
And I don't think there should be any big restrictions on what we put. Resources would be great. Actual tutorials would also be really good. I'm like, when Cube test kind of gets sorted out, I really want to have a tutorial on like actually a workflow for working with Kubernetes. We haven't really written one down anywhere yet, because probably the best one right now is to just use kind directly. And that kind of speaks for itself, but eventually we should have an easier one that includes like the actual test running and stuff. It might even be worth writing up now.
Okay. That makes sense. Also, since you were talking about unit test, would it be worthwhile to give it a try, even at some, to just give it a try somewhere within the project?
You could, but you'll find that almost all of the packages right now involve talking to Docker. And until we break that into a somewhat more mockable interface, most of the packages are not unit testable. Like they're just not, because they're going to turn around and exec stuff on the host.
Yeah.
We need to finish breaking the boundary between the host and the code. Way too much of it doesn't have that boundary. It's sort of in place, but it needs to actually be fixed. Like the configure something also can too, but like that's not super interesting right now because it's so simple. I think like unit tests are like best used to enforce that behavior doesn't change as well. And like the other thing is most of the behavior is supposed to change.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm expecting that to change in the next couple of releases. Sorting out some of this network stuff will be big, and making the Docker and like host stuff decoupled will be big. Once we have the two things, I think the code will be a lot more stable, hopefully. And then that is like immediately we've got to turn around and like identify more good linters to run and have more unit tests, or like we've got one out right now. Like we have bash code, it's not going anywhere. We need to shell check it. I'm sure like other quality things like that. I know the build code for like building a Kubernetes node image is kind of horrifying right now. And it has like a function with like, I don't know, 20 branches in it or something. It's kind of a mess. That's another one that like it's not so much about unit testing that as like rethinking and modularizing it, and then we can unit test it. But once those things are more modular, it should get to where it's going to be pretty easy to go like add unit tests and test cases, and that will actually just be time consuming, and that will be super helpful stuff. But I'm pretty sure almost none of the packages will work for that right now. It's a major deficiency in the project. Or I'm actually planning to try to get like an objective here at work that covers like paying down technical debt. It's like, okay, we grew it out, it's useful, and now we need to make sure it doesn't like become spaghetti code that's untested. It's also, it kind was very, very low branching early on, but every time we add like a config knob, we add like another branch somewhere in a little bit different behavior. And we're getting to the point where we're not covering all of that in the CI. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyhow, thank you all for coming. Apologies, this is a super boring meeting. We've definitely had some more exciting ones in the past, but I think right now there's like enough things in the air that are like ongoing that people are not worried about coming in, seeing them, because it's been iterative. Like the IPv6 work is huge, so like that has a couple of us kind of tied up. I'm sure we'll be back discussing new features going forward, like after some of those like big ongoing ones land. Yeah. Good to see you again. And yeah, any contributions are definitely welcome. If you're planning to make big changes, though, maybe send a note somewhere to discuss. But yeah, happy. I guess is it still here? Probably Tuesday now.
Happy Tuesday, yeah, living in the future.
Tuesday, happy
Well, see you later.
Yeah.